Hymns to the Norse is the fifth full-length album from Stockholm, Sweden-based black metal project Seid. They call their music Norse black metal distinctly, and one that tributes the classics of Scandinavian black metal in general. Their sound specifically takes a lot of care in approaching Bathory-esque dramatism, sort of a pagan metal sound overall, a pagan black metal sound, and fans of Enslaved will appreciate especially what they do if you're a fan of the kind of the earlier first three or four Enslaved records overall. Again, the pagan folk side of things certainly adds to the epic sound of what they have to put to push around depending on the album, but their sound design has changed with every record, and they've been more and less intentional with each record. It really depends on how they're feeling, what the lineup is, and how much they've developed it. They've become a touring band more recently, a kind of a full-fleshed band, but in the past there have been various trio configurations as in terms of studio work or otherwise. So for this record, they're following up their fourth one, which was Svart Soul, and that was kind of my favorite record of theirs at that point. It was one of my favorite records of 2022 even. It was pretty high up there. It surprised quite a few people who commented they just weren't feeling it in the same way. I just thought it was a very strong record. I like the way that its sound design clashed. It wasn't so pro and slick in what it was doing, and the melodies were very strong. It felt like they were leading up to that level of songwriting for a while, and they tried something different with the render of it, and I particularly liked it. So they haven't quite followed up that record with the same sound design here, and this is kind of back to their more polished mode, a cleaner production value that is still raw in some sense. So we'll get an example of that with a clip here, and I'll talk more about the album after that. Again, this is a pagan black metal band, and the production values have cleaned up a bit. They're generally driven by melodic guitar work, and that's the Swedish and Norwegian variations of said sounds. So you do get a little bit of the Bergen sound in what they're doing. You do get a little bit of the appropriately their area of Sweden and some of it, and otherwise, I wouldn't say that this is their strongest record or their worst record. It's just another record from Seid, and I think it stands out for its slow-burning melodic values. The general phrases they bring into each song are fairly simple. Some of them are kind of rote in some sense, but all of them make for an album which is memorable, not too demanding, and reflects fairly good taste in black metal. It's well composed and has an easy-to-read message behind it. It's sort of like melodic black metal for the masses in more of a folken tradition, and for my own taste, it was pretty strong. It wasn't the most memorable record I touched this month, but it was one that I wanted to follow up on because I was really interested to see what they were going to do after the last one. Again, that was one of my favorites of a couple of years ago, and I would say this one didn't have as much impact with me, but it was still memorable. It was still quite well done, and it felt like a personal record that was striving to do something a little bit more ambitious this time around, and generally pulled it off. I think that it's one of their more approachable statements overall, and a good way to reintroduce folks to this band if you've never heard of them. So it might not feel like the most dark, deep, underground new thing, but it is certainly a good example of this type of black metal, and I think they've done well to restate their presentation. So check it out if that's your kind of thing. It releases today on October 18th, and you can read more details in the full written review.